Меня зовут Tastanbekov.
My name is Tastanbekov. I'm almost a young researcher, chemist by training, dreamer and creator. Actually, I became interested in natural science at school. In the last years of school, I decided that I wanted to focus on chemistry. When I was preparing for UNT or United National Test and had to choose a major, I chose chemistry. I hoped to get an educational grant, and since I had to list 3 options, the first university I stated was Almaty Kazakh National University. I managed to get enough points to get an educational grant to enter Almaty Kazakh National University, where I studied in the chemistry faculty. After that, I got the Bolashak scholarship and did a master's degree in chemistry in Sheffield, where I studied polymer chemistry. Sheffield is a small town in England. Mainly football fans know about this town. After I got my master's degree, I returned and a year later started working as a junior research fellow at Nazarbayev University's research center in Astana. There I practiced my profession and concentrated on 2 kinds of polymers. Polymers for medical applications and solar cell polymers, also known as semi-conducting ones. Besides working there, I always wanted to simultaneously do something else. Probably I lacked some creative activity. Thus, I began to start up a bit, combining it with my work. These attempts were mainly unsuccessful because I worked at the laboratory and had no idea how the world worked. I can say I'm a chemist, researcher who learns to commercialize science. It's easier for me to try to make money working on things which I like and which can be useful to society. It is fair to say that there are plenty of support tools for small business, science and young scientists in Kazakhstan. The problem is that first, not all these tools are effective, and second, not everyone knows how to use them. Thus, we can say that probably both sides can be blamed for not providing them in a right way and not knowing how to use them. I always say that my ultimate goal or my dream is to have my own research center, which can provide money for itself, create new technologies, and spend its money on new projects. An important principle is not to work with rediskas. This word translates as radishes from Russian and means bad people. I prefer working with an intermediate-level research fellow who holds the same views to working with a leading specialist who is a rediska. Strangely enough, the principle of not being a bad person is important for science. Yes, such banal qualities as honesty, decency, responsibility, etc. are very important because you broaden knowledge that will be used by others. Which is why you must be sure that this knowledge is thorough, sound, factual and whatnot. You're responsible for it. As far as I know, people think I'm a difficult person because I like order, a systematic approach and consistency. 5 years ago, yes, only 5 years ago I realized that in 80% of all cases, people do not mean what they say. It was quite a discovery for me. It means that if a person says they like something, it doesn't really mean that they do. Or if a person says they agree with something, it doesn't mean that they really agree. It was a discovery for me because I didn't find it appropriate to say that you agree if in fact you don't.
Один из моих проектов, который
Zertis is one of my projects, which were more or less successfully commercialized thanks to experienced entrepreneur and partner Oman Tastanbekov. The title of Zertis project is derived from Kazakh words Zerteo and Yesi, which were contracted to Zertis. It concerns soilless cultivation and everything connected with it. What advantages does soilless cultivation have? First, if soil isn't involved, there is no area for insects. If there is small area for insects, you hardly need pesticides because insects have no area for development, and a favorable environment isn't provided for them. Second, it helps to use water, human labor and area sparingly. Of course, it's impossible to manage without people, but less people are needed if you use more computer technology. Probably the idea of soilless cultivation came into my mind when I tried to solve a problem I had. When I worked in Astana, I lived alone for a long time and there were a lot of small creatures in my flat. I had snails, rats, hamsters and plants. It was easy to take care of animals. I could give a cage to a friend and they would feed and look after them while I had a business trip. It was more difficult to deal with plants. Then I started to consider how I could make watering process automatic, so my plants wouldn't wilt when I was away. I started Googling ways to automate the process and found out that besides automating, it was possible to optimize the process and grow plants without using soil at all. I got interested in it so much that it became my hobby. I tried to develop the first prototypes at home, but later this hobby of mine turned into a project and became my work. There are top 10 most concerning problems of humanity in the coming years. They are expected by 2050, if I'm not mistaken. Terrorism, a low level of education, lack of water, food and overpopulation are listed among these problems. These are researchers' prognoses supported by some facts, which lead them to such conclusions. These are global problems, but not everyone understands the global trend. Let's have a look at Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a country which has a deficit in water resources. Nazarbayev spoke about it in some of his addresses. He said that water-saving technologies were needed, which was also stated in the UN's official report. It proves the fact that Kazakhstan is an area facing a risk in agriculture and a country having a deficit in water resources. Thus, we need a technology helping to use water resources sparingly. Do you understand me? Many people laugh at me because they think that since Kazakhstan covers such a large area, soilless cultivation isn't needed here. Well, I've already mentioned the first reason: we have a lot of land but little water. Besides, not all land in Kazakhstan is suitable for agriculture. It's either marginal or located far away. Using soilless cultivation, you can grow crops not far away from urban areas, and ideally you can cultivate ones in these areas and sell them in the same places. This trend is gaining popularity now. It's known as urban farming.
у проекта Zertis есть
The ZETIS project moves in 4 directions. Everything started with a greenhouse. We grow garden rocket, mint and basil without soil and sell them directly to cafes and restaurants. The second important direction is work with schools. We literally introduce these technologies into schools. It's a school project which involves teacher training, providing supplies and our patented equipment. Well, it includes everything. We ourselves were faced with a problem of not having specialists. It was too late to search for them in universities because grown-up kids studied there, while it wasn't too late to awaken school children's interest and get results. 18 schools have our new green technology classes which prove fruitful. Children choose science, participate in school Olympiads, win educational grants and enter universities. We can see that it's really effective. Then we offer training courses to those who want to study soilless cultivation technologies. They enroll on the courses and we teach them. Another direction is indoor greenhouse stands. As we've seen, there are 3-tier stands and smaller ones, which can be put on a windowsill. Well, our directions are our greenhouses, equipment for schools, training and indoor greenhouse stands. The advantage of our team is in the fact that it consists of very strong people involved in different spheres which usually do not interconnect. For example, Diaz and Dice started this work in 2016. He was an expert in his sphere while I was an expert in business. We cooperated with each other and made ZETIS 30-30 greenhouse. I think since our childhood we've held the same views because we both are interested in projects, which are a step or even few steps ahead of at least Kazakhstan's market today.
Я считаю себя, честно говоря, эгоистом, потому что
To tell the truth, I consider myself selfish because I do only what I want. I guess I'm lucky to want healthy things society needs.
я хочу вещи, которые здоровые и обществу тоже нужны.
I mean, I don't want something that can be harmful to society, but want things that are useful for people.
Что полезно обществу, да, то есть
My wishes coincide with the interests of society. However, I do these things because I like it. What makes us human is a philosophical question.
человека человеком философски я
I can't say that I thought about it a lot.
человека делать человеком это самосознание.
Probably self-realization makes us human.
Самый умный
There are no cleverest people in the world, which is why it is crucial to be able to accept criticism.
уметь воспринимать критику.
First of all, it refers to constructive one, but it's better to be able to accept any criticism. We should be able to derive useful information from any kind of criticism. It's very important.
Знаете, есть такое понятие, как
You know, there is a phenomenon known as the Pygmalion effect.
Пигмалион, это вот такой скульптор был.
Pygmalion was such a talented sculptor that he fell in love with a sculpture of a woman he made himself.
Есть такой эффект, то есть когда человек
There's a psychological phenomenon which occurs when a person makes something and then is blind to criticism, arguments, etc.
критики, свет аргументам и так далее. Это не
Such behavior is unacceptable because you make contribution to the global knowledge base.
в мировую базу знаний. Можно
Although you can be a prolific professional scientist doing your work correctly, I doubt you can be called distinguished if you lack intrinsic motivation.
выполняет свои обязанности хорошо, правильно. Но вряд ли это будет выдающийся.
If you have only extrinsic motivation behind your work, I can't call the way you are set in effective.
Мотивация, мне кажется, это неустойчивая схема.